Hey gamers, Maniac here at GameAccess.net doing another Memories of Maniac video. As you guys may know, today makes the 10th anniversary of the release of Halo 2. This is a very auspicious day that means a lot to me. Not only the anniversary of Halo 2 signifies the release of one of the best games ever made, but actually signifies an anniversary of some of the best gaming-related stories and memories that I actually have. A lot of my favorite memories and stuff like that actually revolve around Halo 2, as well as Halo 2's release night. Some of those stories I might have told already, but for those of you guys who are new to the website and the YouTube channel, I'm going to reiterate some of my best stories that I might have already told before, and as well as add some new ones that you guys may not know. A lot of people don't know this, but Halo 2's release was probably one of the biggest game releases of all time. A lot of people didn't really think about it because, let's face it, the Xbox, the original Xbox that is, was actually sitting in second place. The only reason it was really sitting in second place, other than it's just that it just could not compete against the sheer awesome might of the PlayStation 2. If it was a PlayStation 2 release, everybody probably would have been talking about it a lot more. But for a console that was sitting in far second, this game's release was probably the biggest deal of the year, as well as it laid the groundwork basically for the console multiplayer shooter. Oh, console online multiplayer shooter. Let's get a little specific on that. Why is it like that? Well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I just kind of wanted to set the stage for this story, actually, or these series of stories. So, kick back, relax. We're just a couple of days away from the release of Halo, the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One, and what better way to share some of these stories with you guys? My first memories of Halo 2 would certainly have to revolve around the Halo 2 announcement trailer. Yes, that same trailer that I actually used in my This Halo Life written essay, as well as my Halo my Waiting for Halo 4 documentary. I was a PC gamer through and through at that time. I only played games on the PC, and most times I was pretty angry whenever there was a game that would be console agnostic, because I knew for a fact that the PC could run it at the time, and probably even run it better. And that's still, I'm sure, the mentality behind a lot of PC gamers nowadays is like, oh, the PC could run this and the PC could run that. And the truth is, yeah, it can. The problem is, the reason why I'm no longer basically playing PC games is that DRM. It's probably just DRM, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In the case of the first Halo game, it interested me. And when Halo 2 was first announced with that fantastic cinematic trailer,
Admiral, tell your men to hold their positions. Reinforcements are on the spoke.
The entire fleet is engaged, Cortana. With respect, what the hell sort of reinforcement have you got?
I was really impressed. You had a twofold story being told. Just a great setup. The technology looked fantastic. Everything looked amazing. But not only that, it told a complete story over the course of 90 seconds or so. Not just the Chief is ready to fight to protect his home planet, our home planet, Earth. The battleground has reached Earth. But also, it listed down everything that he had done up to that point to save the planet. Having those two things happening at the same time really, really hit home for me. And for somebody who would never have picked, even considered picking up an Xbox console, an original Xbox console, because they were a PC gamer, if there was going to be a reason for me to pick up an Xbox, it was probably going to be for the original, to play Halo 2. I know that a lot of people would probably say that Half-Life 2's first public unveiling was probably going to be the big event of that show, and they have very good reason to suspect that was a very big showing. But for me personally, the big showing that I really enjoyed more than anything else was the Halo 2 live performance.
So we're going to show you Halo 2 today. I'm actually going to be playing it as best I can. But before we start, I just need to go over some safety regulations in case of fire or electrical storm or earthquake or something like that. Just be sure that you guys are safe.
Smell it, son! These folks didn't wait in line to hear your lips flippity-flap. Knuckle up and get ready to dance, you pasty bastard!
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
What you good people are about to see is an operation in progress. This is a real-time feed. No smoke and mirrors, pre-recorded bullshit. Have made landfall and occupied one of our cities. We will link up with our forces in theater, engage the enemy, and boot their sorry behinds back into the stratosphere. Yo, demo biatch.
Sir.
You got anything?
Well, I need to talk about
Didn't think so. Kill the lights!
Joe Staten had a bunch of different speeches that he was doing, basically, of that day. I specifically remember him saying something different. I think he was talking about, as we got in, we were waiting in line, we got into the show, Joe Staten stood above us, and I didn't know who Joe Staten was at the time. So we sat down, and he said that, you know, our technology, we got like a 15-minute presentation for you guys before the show, where we're going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation on, I think he said, our technology is going to be powering the next version of Office, actually, which, by the way, would have been awesome. That would have been a real reason to upgrade your version of Office, actually. It's like, why should I upgrade my version of Office this year? Well, we're using the Halo 2 engine this year for your word processor. Awesome! Alright! I'm upgrading now. And the scene that they showed, which is Sergeant Johnson cutting in, saying that this will be a real-time feed. And one thing they didn't show, actually, was they cut away from this. I don't know why they cut away from this. Let me see if I... Hold on one second. Let me see if they got this. I might have it here somewhere. While the feed was going on, and you would have heard the voiceover for this when the show was happening. Yeah, this is it right here. This right here is the Art of Halo. Basically, let's see if I can focus in on this. At the very end where he says that they're going to kick some butt, basically it did a little GIF animation between these two little frames, basically, at the very end. For some odd reason, that was cut out of the documentary, that little animation that they did. I thought it was pretty funny, actually, but they never showed it, so now you guys know about it. And it would have gone from there to a live presentation, which was done by Joe Staten, which you probably have already seen, the very first run of the new Mombasa level, basically. Everybody was going crazy. I saw that demo having never played Halo yet. I was, of course, familiar with Halo because, as a PC gamer who didn't even own an Xbox at the time, I still had to go see Halo 2. I knew that even though I didn't have an Xbox, I wasn't planning on picking up an Xbox, I knew I still had to go see Halo 2. And the reason why was because when Halo 2 was first announced, it had one hell of an announcement trailer. For somebody who had never even played the first Halo game, it piqued my interest. It really did. And because of that, I knew I had to go see the demo of Halo 2.
Bet you can't stick it.
You're on.
We had known that Halo 2 was going to make use of the Xbox Live service. And E3 2004, which was another E3 I attended, they actually did have live demos that you could play of some of the multiplayer maps.
Bungie is here to give us our first glimpse of Halo 2's multiplayer action.
The year is 2552. After a long fight, our colonial defense has failed. and the Covenant have made their way to Earth. Today's mission takes place 20 clicks north of the Covenant's primary point of incursion, in an abandoned township on the coast of East Africa. This is an actual network game. I'm a Spartan, and Max, our multiplayer lead, is an elite. Hey, say hi, Max. You know, some things just go across cultures.
What an amazing achievement from Bungie's team, and what a great addition to Xbox Live.
I finally had high-speed internet in my area because Xbox Live, when it launched in 2002, required high-speed internet. There was no dial-up. And my home was on dial-up up until late 2004. Late 2004. The reason why was because the cable providers basically just sat on their hands going bitty, 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 as we waited and waited and waited and waited and waited for, for them to finally bring internet service here. The second that they did, literally the second that they did, I called up the cable provider and said, cancel my dial-up. I'm going to cable. 1 week before the release of Halo 2, I ended up picking up an original copy of an Xbox. Unfortunately, I had missed out on the Halo Collector's Edition Xbox, which was released that summer. I'm really still upset about that. They had this translucent green Xbox that I just completely missed out on, that actually came with a copy of Halo, the original Halo, Combat Evolved. I did pick up an original copy of the Xbox version of Halo Combat Evolved, just so I could have some practice on the controls. Even though I had already played through Halo Combat Evolved on the PC, there was a PC version of Halo Combat Evolved that had been released about a year prior to Halo 2's launch. I really found myself enjoying Halo PC quite a bit, and I basically picked this up just so I could get a bit of a feel for the controller and everything else, so I could get, at least have some kind of frame of reference for when I would get a chance to finally play Halo 2, because there was no mention whatsoever, and I had no expectation that there would be a Windows version of Halo 2 that was ever going to get released, or at the very least not get released within a reasonable time frame. So I pick up an Xbox, I pick up Halo Combat Evolved. If I had one comment about this, I really did appreciate the performance of Halo Combat Evolved on the original Xbox a lot better than I appreciated the PC performance. The story was identical. The graphics were better on the PC version. There was online multiplayer for the PC version, but at the very least, performance was a lot better on the Xbox version, and the controls were a lot more fluid on the Xbox version. So I kind of had to give that props. I did find myself enjoying the Halo console experience quite a bit, and it probably was what spurred a little bit of the start of my conversion to being a console gamer. But that's neither here nor there. There was still plenty of PC games that were coming out exclusively on the PC that I was still looking forward to. But Halo, for me, it was not. A lot of the time, I would have gone from a PC experience with a game to a console experience with a game and thinking that they were inferior, as opposed to this, where I kind of thought both actually had their own strengths and weaknesses, but neither one upstaged the other, basically. So it was a good experience overall. I used to work at University of Connecticut, and I went up for the day. I really don't even really remember why I chose that day to go up to Buckland Hills. Basically because I wanted to see my friend Otacon. I was friends. I worked with him for a couple of years on a couple of summers, that sort of thing. And it had been a while since I had seen him. It was November. We usually would work together during the summertime. I missed him. We talk online, and I just wanted to go up and spend the day with him and hang out, have chicken wings, that sort of stuff, basically. So a typical hangout spot that we would typically go to while I was over there was the Buckland Hills Mall. We'd basically drive down and go check out the mall, see what was going on, that sort of stuff, basically. If I found a deal, I'd pick it up. For the most part, I typically wouldn't. It just so happened that the night that he and I were hanging out was the night of Halo 2's release. Talk about serendipity, right? So everybody was basically gearing up. There were at least 2 game stores at the time. There was Electronics Boutique, which was not owned by GameStop, and there was GameStop itself. Both stores were doing pre-orders for Halo 2 on the Xbox.
the mature.
I had already known by this point that there was going to be a limited collector's edition for this game, which excited me quite a bit because typically games didn't really do collector's editions back then unless they were a really big deal. When I had found out that they were going to do a limited collector's edition that would have included an extra bonus DVD as well as a steelbook and that sort of thing, and it was only a $10 premium. That's right, only a $10 premium over the original game price. The game launched at a price of $50. If you wanted a limited collector's edition, it was just $60. Seemed like a pretty fair price to me. And I was concerned, basically, given its limited, stature, that I wouldn't be able to get a copy. So I talked to one of the guys at GameStop that day, and I said, "Are you guys still taking pre-orders for limited collector's edition?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he took I just on a whim, I put a pre-order down for it to pick it up that night, just on a whim. I wasn't even there for an Xbox game. We were basically both playing GameCube games at the time, actually. Otacon was a huge GameCube gamer. We were talking about games like Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker and Four Swords Adventures and stuff like that. And if futuristic, more titles in the future, like I think Resident Evil 4, we were talking about that sort of thing, basically. But yeah, we weren't even really there to look at Xbox games. We were mostly there for GameCube titles. And it just so happened that the game that I pick out would be an Xbox title. And now I'm going to tell a story after I had picked up the pre-order. I'm going to tell a story that I probably have already mentioned on this site before, but it's a really awesome story. This was this was the same day. This happened the same day. As I was part of the reason why I picked up a pre-order was I actually had word of mouth from somebody else that was there, not Otacon, just somebody else. I'm assuming they were from University of Connecticut, but I could have been wrong about that. There was a guy there who was about my age, maybe a little bit younger, I don't know, who was at the store basically looking in to picking up a pre-order for himself, and he was there with two pretty ladies, which was very unusual at the time. It kind of like, okay, this kind of stood out. Nowadays, I'm sure that's less of a thing, but at the time that did kind of stand out for me. And so he actually talked to me, and we talked for a little bit. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "What you here for?" And we kind of struck up a little bit of a banter. And he said he was there just basically to secure his deposit for Halo 2 because he was planning on picking up Halo 2. And it made the two ladies groan when they overheard him talking about Halo 2. Now, I was a sophomore in college at the time. And so my freshman year was long since over. It seemed to me like this guy might have been a freshman, I don't know. But after a year in college, I kind of felt like, I don't know, I kind of felt like an experienced, old sage, where I was probably only about 20 at the time, which is kind of funny. It's like you're 20 years old, you're probably separated by a year or two, and I kind of felt like after a year in college, I felt like a wise old sage about this stuff. I had a pretty bad freshman year, so maybe that's why, I don't know. So anyways, what ended up happening was, as soon as he mentioned that he was planning on picking up Halo 2 that night, it made the two ladies groan in disgust a little bit. So I asked them, I was like, "Well, what's going on? What's so bad about Halo?" or something like that. And they basically said that they were expecting him to be playing Halo and doing nothing but playing Halo, to the detriment of the both of them, who basically, as they told me, he was their only friend. So this wasn't even a romantic relationship. This was just friendship, basically. So this guy had friendship with two pretty ladies, and they were not looking forward to the fact that he was going to be spending his time playing Halo. So I said to him, as my brain was trying to wrap itself around this dilemma this person was having, play tonight, get through the campaign, give him, like a day or something like that to get it out of the system, and then you all can hang out again. And he said, "No, I plan on playing multiplayer." Now, FYI, multiplayer for Halo 2 wasn't shut down until 2010. So that meant there were 6 years of multiplayer for Halo 2. I don't know if this guy still played that long, but theoretically he could have been playing for 6 years. basically I said to the girls, give him some time, and I said to the guy, don't leave, don't do it. Don't devote all this time to multiplayer when you've got two good friends that want to spend time with you. Give each other some space for a little bit of time, and then and then you can get back together. I kind of was hoping that maybe it wouldn't, his concern about the game or his interest in the game wouldn't last more than maybe about a day and a half to a week or something like that. But who knows? I never saw him again. I never ran into any of them again. I don't know what happened. The night of Halo 2's launch, the midnight release, I was at Buckland Hills to basically pick up my pre-order. The line was out the door. It was pretty damn long. The Buckland Hills GameStop was open at midnight that night. I had confirmed that when I placed a deposit a couple of hours earlier. And what basically happened was that we must have waited at least 30 to 45 minutes, I mean, to get my copy of the game. They had two lines set up, one for people who had ordered a copy in full, and one for people who still had money to pay off, basically, of which I was in that line. I won't lie, the lines in both sides were, the majority of them were guys. I think I might have remembered seeing maybe one or two girls, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think that the girls were there to play. It seemed like they were just there, sharing the experience with their boyfriends. I don't think that they were planning on playing themselves, which is kind of disappointing because I think the game works well if you're a guy or a girl. I don't gender discriminate on that kind of thing. So that was kind of disappointing, but nevertheless, my friend Otacon slept in the car. I remember, because my friend Otacon didn't drive at the time, and I couldn't drop him off before the midnight release of the game, given the fact of where he lived and stuff like that, and my plans for going back home. So what I decided to do instead was just told him to sleep in my car. It was midnight. He was exhausted. So he slept in my car, and I think he probably got at least an hour plus time to sleep, as basically I just waited in line out in the cold, basically. That was not only in my line of work, that wasn't the first pre-order that I ever had in my life, but that was probably the first pre-order I had that was a positive experience. Most of the other pre-orders that I had done at the time, if I had bothered to do a pre-order, would basically be, it would either come late or the games would not arrive on time. And it didn't matter whether it was a pre-order that was for an online purchase or a pre-order that was for an in-store retail purchase. I never had a positive pre-order. Well, I take it back. I did have one positive pre-order experience at retail. I'm sorry, for the online marketplace. Ironically enough, it was for a game that nobody seems to remember, Sanity Icons Artifact. I got that game on PC a day early with not only the pre-order bonus that I had ordered, but extra pre-order bonuses that I wasn't expecting that were actually for other retailers. So props to the old ebgames.com for that. But other than that, most of my pre-order experiences were all bad. The games would be a week late getting to the stores that I would pre-order at, whereas other stores would have copies fine. It would be handicapping. It would not have been good experiences, basically. So this was fun, though, because even though I had been a gamer for many years, I didn't think there were any local gamers. I didn't think that my area actually was the kind of area, or my state was the kind of one that would harbor gamers. I never had an experience, at least not in that state, where I would meet other like-minded people that were locals. When I lived in California, spent my first year in college, yeah, I met gamers, but it was California. All the major gaming events, would happen in the state of California, whether it be E3, Great Game Developers Conference, that sort of stuff, basically. Nothing would be happening on the East Coast whatsoever. And so it was nice to finally take part in an experience where people would be getting together, meeting other people of similar interests that were local to them. And I'll always be grateful and always remember that experience where I'd be like, hey, there are gamers here. Wow, I never knew that. I'm finally meeting them face to face. Everybody's nice. Everybody's really excited about this new game. And we're going to get this new game. It's not going to be delayed. Your pre-order actually will guarantee your copy and everything else. You'll be really happy about that. And I was pumped. I was psyched. And even though that hour wait was an hour wait, it sure didn't feel like one. I was really excited about it. I was really happy to be waiting in line amongst all these like-minded people. I got to my spot in line. I got to the register, and I picked up probably one of the best collector's edition. Even to this day, it's probably one of the best collector's editions that was ever made. The Halo 2 Limited Collector's Edition. In a steel book. It really wasn't limited. There probably are still copies. They made a lot of these. Microsoft actually made a lot of these limited collector's editions of this game. So these were hardly rare. You could probably find them in stores for months after launch. And not at unfair prices, that sort of stuff. These were hardly rare, but let me tell you something. Even though they weren't really that limited, this is still holds up as one of the best collector's editions. It beats out collector's editions that are released today for higher prices, for God's sakes. And I'll tell you why. It's not the steelbook. Everybody just assumed that the steelbook case was the reason why. And while it's a nice steelbook case, it's just a case. What really, really sold this thing? Let's see if you guys can see it. I don't know if it's focusing properly, but was the DVD that was included with this. Most collector's editions, if they even bother to include a DVD documentary in the first place anymore, because they really don't anymore, but would basically just create like a short fluff piece or something like that. The guys who made this documentary, a company called Film Oasis, and Film Oasis, if you're still around, please keep making these things. I haven't seen you guys make anything in quite a while. I'd really like to see you guys make some new documentaries about video games. You did a great job on the Halo 2 Limited Collection Edition. It holds up as one of the best gaming, documentaries of all time. I get my collector's edition. I bring Otacon home. I take it home. I think I popped it into my Xbox just to take a look to make sure the copy worked. And I went to bed. I really didn't play. I'll be honest. I know I picked it up at midnight. I really just didn't play it. I was too exhausted. It was like 1, 2 in the morning or something like that, because it was about an hour's drive away from Buckland Hills. To say nothing of, I can't remember how far away it was from where Otacon was living at the time. So I didn't really play it. I was just too exhausted. But my game worked, and I was certainly planning on playing it the next day. What happens? The next day, I had classes all day. That was Monday. I had 3 classes that day. It was my sophomore year. I went to my classes. I know. In fact, actually, that surprised a lot of people, because even though everybody in my classes knew I was a tech head. They knew I was like this was a year that I actually ended up writing for a final paper for that particular, the last class I had that day, I ended up writing a final paper for that class about the development of Doom 3, about chronicling the entire development of Doom 3. That was my final paper for that class, actually. So these students knew I was a tech head. They knew I was a gamer. And they were all surprised to see me that day. Of all days, they were all surprised to see me in class. And they said, "Oh, you're here?" It's like, "Why aren't you playing Halo 2 or something like that?" I said, "Yeah, I've got my copy. I'm probably going to play it after class. I am going to class today." And to be honest, I did enjoy that class. So, maybe that's the reason why or something. I don't know. So, after class that day, I was ready to play Halo 2, and I wasn't disappointed. I pop in the game, I start playing Cairo Station, and the rest is history, I guess. I had played a console first-person shooter first before playing it on a PC. And I was not disappointed. The game was great, the story was great. Without spoiling anything on a 10-year-old game, I will say that Halo 2 still stands to this day as my favorite Halo game of the entire Halo franchise. 10 years later, there have been 2 numbered Halo games since then. 2 more numbered Halo games on the way. For what console? In some cases, we don't know. We know that Halo 5 is coming to the Xbox One, but for a Halo 6, which was confirmed, we don't know what's going to be happening with that one just yet. Halo 2 spawned two of the best soundtracks of all time for a video game. Probably the only one I can think of that would probably be better would probably be Metal Gear Solid soundtrack, but that was about it. Still remains my favorite Halo game of all time, and it's 10 years now that I can look back on for all of these titles. How has my life changed since then? Quite a bit. I now have my own website, I now have my own YouTube channel, I have a girlfriend now, I am out of college, I need to figure out something to do with my life. What will I be saying in 10 years from now? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys for watching. This is Maniac with GameAccess.net. Over and out.
Oh, how you doing, Marty? Another thing, I don't like fat ankles. That's always been...
Why'd you look at me and say that?
No, I'm thinking of what Sergeant Johnson would say. I'm good. Chief? Say what? Hey, I'm not dying again. I only die once. Do you hear me? Hard enough coming back the first time. I never thought about being with a man, really. You know, some guys say they got fantasy. I don't even have a fantasy. And don't tell me your fantasy. We're not that close. Say what? I came back to life for this. I'm good. Chief, I never paid for sex. You know, some cats could pay for it. Why pay for it? If you can't get it for free, that's some sad... Say what? Oh, man. Mama said there'd be lifetimes like this. You gotta balance it out, the good with the bad. Another thing I don't like, I don't really have a preference as far as women, like, you know, I just like them. If they smell good and they remind me of me, I like them. You can't take a girl to the library. It's free. Well, okay, it's not so bad. Check out a book. What do you think of the library? The bathrooms stink. Men cannot hit it. Is it so hard to hit it, man? I sit down. When I lived with my lady, I just sat down. Well, she made me sit down, but that's a different story.